Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me and happy Monday. Now, I feel like I haven't been here in a really long time. For those of you who don't know, I'm skipping every other week now for these videos. I have decided to keep these videos on this channel, but from now on it will just be every other week. So for those of you who are new here to Mondays, I tell ghost stories that are sent in to me on this email address right here. You can send me ghost stories, alien stories, you know, other ones, anything paranormal or a little bit creepy, I'll be very interested to share with everyone. I also create a look to kind of go with no, I don't know what I'm saying. I create a look based on the way to die and then do the makeup as I'm reading the stories. This series is very much based on Bailey Sarian's Murder Mystery and Makeup Mondays. I'm sure you already know who she is, but I'll leave a link to her channel below and go and check them out. They're very, very good videos. I don't know where she gets the patience to make such well kind of researched and thought out videos, so they're 100% worth the watch. Okay, so let's do it. Today's theme for makeup and dyeing is someone actually sent this to me in, was it a message or on somewhere? And they were like, I was talking about candles, and they said, why didn't you do, like, you lit loads of candles in a room, you were having like a nice relaxing time, and you fell asleep among the candles, and all the candles dripped on you, and you died being covered in candle wax. And I thought that's a really cute idea. So I'm going to take inspiration from that and do kind of like a drippy kind of look from the eyes, using like duochrome shadows. Yeah. Let's do it. I was going to say something. Oh, for those of you who don't know already, Marcus, who reads 2 stories on my videos every single week, my brother Marcus, who also puts all these stories together for me, has his own channel where he looks into things that are a little bit weird, a little bit creepy, a little bit unusual. I'll leave a link below to his channel as well, and also I'll leave it as a pinned comment. Go ahead and subscribe and watch his video. I think you will greatly enjoy it. If you love listening to him here on my channel, then you're going to love watching his videos as well. Okay, let's get into it. I've seen the title of the first story already. I'm recording, yeah? Okay, good. The other week we had somebody whose fear was twins, and I'm really sorry, but it's gonna happen straight up. So our first story today is called Twin Sister Glitch. Ooh, I love a good glitch. It says, "Hi Robert, I discovered you and your brother by accident, and I'm very happy I did, considering I now know what fucking eye primer is." Eye primer is very important to everyone. This story isn't involving me, but my friend Gregory, name changed to protect his identity. Gregory is now a firm believer of time paradoxes and time travel, etc. Ooh, this is interesting. When he was 10, he had an acting teacher who he looked up to a lot. He also remembered this teacher having 2 identical twin daughters. They were 7 and both had long, dirty blonde hair and blue eyes. One week, him and his friend had to work on an acting project for this teacher's class, and she let them film at her house, as there was lots of space. Now, he would remember every day at 4, the dad would come home with the girls, who would get an afternoon snack and start on their homework. I remember he said something about the girls having something to differentiate them from each other, but he's slowly starting to forget over time. Well, years later, he saw her on Facebook and decided to see what she was up to. After looking through some photos, he noticed that one of the daughters isn't on any of them. He thinks it's odd, but he assumes maybe she died. Weirdly, there's no memorial about her. There's nothing at all. It was like she never existed. So we decided to get in touch with her and asked how everything was going. The conversation was normal until he asked, what happened to the girl's name? Who? He said her name again, saying that it was the other twin girl, and asking bluntly if she died or not. He's a very straightforward person. I have no idea who you're talking about. He's obviously freaked out and starts getting in touch with his friend who worked with him on that project, his parents, his brother, anyone. They all said the same, as if the little girl never existed. To this day, he still doesn't know what happened and is slowly starting to forget her, even though he doesn't want to. Stop, I just got chills. Oh my God, that's creepy. That is so strange. A huge chunk of someone you knew or someone you thought existed doesn't actually exist and never did, and nobody knows who it is. Like, how do you explain that? Like, they would acknowledge both. Oh, well, thank you so much for that story. That is baffling. Like, what the hell? That's crazy. That is insane. That gives me goosebumps. Okay, let's listen to our first audio story of the day. If you want to send me your story in video form, if you want to sit and talk, and tell your story, or if you want to write down your story and then read it out to me and send it in audio form, it really does help me get through these videos and edit them a little bit quicker. So let's listen to our first audio story of the day.
Hi Robert, I just want to say I love watching your videos, especially the ghost stories. I really enjoy watching them every week, so thank you for bringing me so much joy. So I have a couple of weird ghost stories, but the one that sticks out in my mind, which I really cannot explain, is something that happened to me when I was very, very young, and it is one of my earliest memories, which freaks me out. Anyway, so I was probably 3 years old, probably younger. I was a baby and I was sleeping in the same bed as my mum and dad. I think I got in there in the middle of the night or in the morning, and both of my parents were asleep and it's just us guys in the house. But I'm awake and I turn over to cuddle my mum, and stood at her bedside is the exact same version of my mum, with the same hair, the same clothes, but she's made out of sand. And she has this horrible, creepy Cheshire cat grin on her face. All of her teeth are showing, and she's staring right at me. And I was so scared because it wasn't my mum, but it looked just like her, and she was asleep right next to me. Obviously, I was freaked out, and I don't really remember what happened after that, but it's something that's, been on my mind for my whole life, and I've tried researching into sand people. I don't know what kind of... It must have been the most vivid dream, and for that to last in my memory from being that young is very strange. So I hope you enjoyed this really short, weird story. If there's anyone out there that knows or has any experience with sand people and can relate, please let me know. I'd love to know. I hope I'm not the only one. Thank you.
How weird. I've never heard anything like that before. I've never heard of a sand person, shadow people, yeah, ghosts, creepy, people standing outside of it, but never like a whole sand person. That's so strange. I would love to know if anyone has any ideas about that, any kind of explanation. I've never heard of that. I never heard of that. But yeah, I mean, something like that is going to haunt you for life, isn't it? No, I've never heard of that ever. I'm trying a new eyeshadow base today and I'm really not getting on with it. It's really not picking up here. Really strange, but great story. Thank you so much. Do leave your opinions below. I would love to see what people think of that and what they think it could have been. Yeah, okay, let's move on to our next story. This is called The Nun. Oh, no thank you. Something about nuns. I mean, they're great, but the scary ones. So it says, "Hi Robert, firstly, I absolutely love this series and your channel in general. Thank you so much. Your content is entertaining and informative, the perfect combo." Thank you, I appreciate it. The sixth form I went to was founded by a group of nuns in the late 1800s. Today, all the students are obliged to attend a weekly RE session in addition to their own courses. There was a room on the basement level that used to be used for these sessions, but I think it has been sealed off during renovations. My former RE teacher, from whom the story comes, used to teach some sessions in this room, and one day something very peculiar happened. His students came into the room and took their seats as usual, but for some reason, they left one specific seat empty. These sessions usually involved group activities during which the students would move around the room and switch seats. But no one took the specific seat, and it stayed empty throughout the whole hour. The next week, my teacher taught this class again, and one of the students asked him, "Did our guests enjoy the lesson last week?" Stop. Confused as there was seemingly no guest present, he asked who the student was talking about, to which they replied, "The nun that was sitting in the class with us." Oh my God, I would never want to teach in that class again. That was a great story. Thank you. These stories keep giving me at the end of the story, chills. Here you go, here's some chills. Oh, thank you so much for sending that in. Okay, let's go ahead and, as is custom, have Marcus read us our next story.
Hi, this first story is called Don't Pick Up Hitchhikers. I was driving down a well-known, well-travelled road in a rural part of South Carolina. As a rule, I never pick up hitchhikers, but slowly I passed a woman with a baby. Now this was August and hot as hell outside, even at night. It had just passed 9 p.m. No car was directly behind me, so I backed up and asked if she needed a ride. She told me she was only 1.5 blocks from home and just got some dinner for her and her child. I told her it was no problem. It didn't really click with me the time of night she apparently got dinner. She looked to be in her mid-20s. She got in my car and we progressed down the road. I asked her what her baby's name was. She said in a deadpan voice, "What baby?" I looked in the rearview mirror to find she was grinning at me. I silently screamed and almost crashed into the curb to stop. When I came against the curb, about to run out of my car, I looked into the back seat to find she was gone. Needless to say, I called my friend to pick me up. I had him drive my car into a store parking lot, and I would come back to get it the next day. He compassionately spent the night and believed my whole experience. I won't pick up a hitchhiker ever again. I love your channel and content, Robert. These stories will always start a wonderfully chilling dialogue. I don't think I would be particularly happy with that happening. It wouldn't happen to Robert anyway, because you wouldn't be able to get into the back seat of his car, what with all the bags of poo everywhere. This next story is called The Dream and the Hand. Hi Robert, I would like to start off by saying you're such an amazing person and I love your videos. I discovered you not too long ago and watching your content brightens up my day. Now that I've rambled on, I suppose I should get to the story. It happened about 2 years ago, and I think it will stick with me the rest of my life. One day when I was doing the dishes, I could have sworn I saw a woman out the corner of my eye, walking into my bedroom. She was wearing an old gown and an apron, and her hair was up in a bun. I tried my hardest to brush off the sight, but it kept sticking with me all day. Later on, when I was sitting on the couch in my living room and watching a bit of television, I heard a knock at the front door. No one else heard the knocking but me. I checked outside to see who was there, and when I looked, it was the exact figure I had seen earlier that day, but now she was sitting in a chair on my front porch. That night, I had the hardest time going to sleep. The room felt so cold and heavy, and just extremely uncomfortable. Once I finally fell asleep, I had an awful dream. In this dream, I was in a white hallway full of doors. For some reason, I always went to the door at the end of the hallway, which would bring me to the same hallway once again. This cycle went on about 6 times, until I opened that door, and instead of a hallway, there was a white room, where the same lady was sitting in a rocking chair, watching TV with nothing but static on the screen. I don't know why, but I walked over to her. Before I could even get close, she turned around faster than anything I've ever seen and grabbed my arm. It felt like a jump scare out of a horror movie. The next morning, when I was ready for school, I was hanging out with my mum on her bed. All of a sudden, she looked at me and looked really confused. I asked her what was wrong, and she pointed to my arm and said, "What on earth did you do to yourself?" I said, "What do you mean?" and looked down at my arm. There was a giant handprint-like bruise on my arm exactly where the woman grabbed me in my dream. I tried to explain to my mum what had happened, and that it couldn't have been me. The hand was 2 times bigger than my own. She didn't believe me, and still to this day she does not believe me. Back over to Raggedy Robert for his latest look. I don't actually know what he does. I've never watched one of these videos. I'm generally very busy. Busy doing anything else. I'll see you all later.
Well, thanks for that, Marcus. Yeah, it's a shame you don't watch these videos. Might consider cutting out the bit where I talk about your channel. Oh, oh my god, that smells so good. Listen, hitchhikers. Let's talk about hitchhikers. Let's talk about the dilemma, right? If you're someone who really believes in ghosts and spirits and just dangerous people, hitchhikers, a woman with a baby, is like notoriously like one of those like traps. But also, what if it's a woman with a baby? You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? You can't just leave her at the side of a road. I'd rather like pull up and then wind down my window a little bit and be like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then I'll be like, here's some money for an Uber, or order them an Uber. For my own safety, but also for them. And then you can also be like, oh yeah, I really helped today. I did my bit. And here's another thing, right? About the second story, if you dream something, or you thought you dreamt something, and then like it bleeds into your real life, I'll be, Googling stuff and going to the library like they do in films, when they wind up old newspapers for some reason. Okay, what am I doing now? Let's put in a lip colour. And I can read, I think it's our last story, everyone, and I'm not done with the makeup yet. Okay, so this doesn't have a title. Okay, it's on. Oh. Light nude. Juvia's Place lip products. Smell so amazing. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to keep that there. It says, hi Robert, I just want to start by saying me and my partner love watching your videos. Thank you so much. He loves everything ghosty and just loves your makeup. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Our ghost story is when me and my partner went on a ghost tour with a company, Bumps in the Night. Oh, cute. I want to do that. I want to do that so bad. We went to an old Victorian building and was shown around the building in the pitch black. We all gathered in the old chapel and formed a circle holding hands. The tour guide said to us, say the first name that comes into your head. I thought of Emily right away, but was too scared to say anything out loud. But the man holding my hand shouted the name Emily really loud, and it made me jump. I was called into the circle and asked questions. All of a sudden, I felt freezing cold and started to feel dizzy, but stated I felt fine because I hated the whole experience. Throughout the whole tour, I couldn't stop thinking of the name Emily, and I kept having this freezing cold feeling down my spine. We later went down to the basement cellar, where there was a table that you could see under, so there was no hidden tricks. My partner and the other people placed their fingertips on the top of the table. I refused as I didn't like the thought. The tour guide kept calling the name Emily, and all of a sudden the table started to move. All other people and the tour guide was calling the spirit to use their energy to manifest, and the table started to move faster and faster. I stood in the corner and was praying to protect myself, my partner and all the other people from becoming attached to the spirit. After my prayer, the table stopped moving. After we went home, I prayed to God that we didn't bring any unwanted friends home with us back to my home. The next morning, my mum asked how the night was, and I stated it was fine. She then turned around and said, how was Emily? What? I instantly thought my partner had to hold her, but he promised he didn't. And my mum stated she didn't remember saying anything about Emily. Stop! She didn't know anyone called Emily. I later researched the building, and there was a story of a young girl dying in a fire. Her name was Emily. Safe to say, I will never do a ghost hunt again. All these stories today are giving it like this to us right at the end. It's great. Emily. Ooh, poor Emily. Oh, I was going to drip stuff down my face. I'll do it and then I'll put it on Instagram. I can't bother now. That's insane. That is crazy. I really, really want to do like this, a whole like ghost tour thing. But that is one of my fears. That what if something follows you home? What if that person's like, they believe they're weak? Let me let me get in there and let me go all Emily on them. I wouldn't want that to happen to me. Thank you so much for your story. I really, really greatly appreciate it. If you want to send me your stories, you can go ahead and send them right here to this email address, and I will hopefully read them out here on this channel. There's a huge delay in reading them out, so I think it's months and months and months and months. So apologies if we haven't quite got around to yours yet. As I mentioned earlier, be sure to subscribe to Marcus's channel. You're going to love his content. I'll leave a link below for that. And I will see you not next Monday, but the week after. Thanks again, everyone. See you soon. Bye.